Today, we're talking about 4 skills that all beginning IT people need to know. Let's get into it. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Adrian Reddix, and today we're talking about 4 skills I believe all beginner IT people need. Last week we talked about the non-tech skills that I believe all tech workers need. This week it's 4 skills I think as a beginner IT person you need to be or to accomplish or to get a good foothold of being an IT person. Now, when I'm talking about IT, like last week, we discussed the 3 types of technical people when it comes to tech. You have your programmers who code software. You have your engineers who build hardware as far as designing hardware and make sure and things like that. And then you have the third people. And the third one is what I'm talking about. The third people who maintain the software and maintain the hardware. So they're kind of like computer mechanics, if you want to break it down to a simpler term. But then even in that, you have your different sects of that. You have security, you have networking, you have general IT, you have people who do voice over IP. You have just a myriad of things, but I'm talking about people who are just starting in this industry. What do you need to do? So let's talk about that. Now, the first thing we're going to talk about is something that this list isn't in order, but this is the most important thing in my opinion. Anytime I have a new intern or somebody new that's shadowing me at work, this is the first thing they do every day, because I believe it's the most essential thing that a IT person needs to know. And that's how to make Ethernet cable. It seems mundane. You would think maybe they need to learn networking, or they need to learn how to build a computer, or the first thing they need to know is what a computer is. The first thing you need to do is learn how to make a Ethernet cable. If you're lucky enough, you can skip being the junior or the entry level guy at your company. If you're a small company and you have a IT department that does everything, you will be that person on the bottom. Or if you're lucky enough to skip ahead to something more advanced, then you can. But the majority of the time, you're going to be the lower level person. And in the IT world, like a lot of other things, that lower level person does the work that nobody else wants to do. And cable making is one of those things. But why is it important? Why is it more important to learn how to make cable than how to network or security or anything else? One, because it gives you familiar with the hardware, how things work, and it gives you a technical skill, because cable making seems easy, but it's not. Once you get the hang of it, it becomes like second nature. And 2, it does teach you basic networking, because you get familiar with NICs and switches and things like that. So you get a very basic understanding how all this stuff is starting to come together. Every other job I've ever been to or people I've talked to, you will be the one to do the grunt work. And cable making is the grunt work. So you have to connect things and things like that. So making the cable is going to teach you a skill. It's going to teach you some basic networking, and you just go from there. If you don't know how things are connected, then how are you ever going to troubleshoot? If you don't know how they work or how they interact with each other, you can't have that troubleshoot, right? So cable making, unlike networking or even learning hardware, I believe that's the most important thing to learn. The first most important thing to learn. The rest of the list is whatever order you want to put it in. The second thing, it ties on the back of the first thing, and that's basic networking. Why do I need to know how basic networking works? Well, when you're in IT, first you got to make sure that you're connecting your clients or your coworkers or whoever's calling for your help to their resources that they need, be it the internet or network resources or whatever it is. You got to understand how all that connects together. You got to understand what a NIC is. You got to understand what Ethernet cable is, which you probably do, switches, hubs, and why we don't use them, make them secure. You know, these are very important things. And once you get away from the physical side of it, you gotta, there's this thing, I'm getting kind of technical here, but it's called a TCP stack and how all that relates to networking, right? Let's take, for example, this is going to combine basic networking and troubleshooting. Let's say if somebody calls you and says, hey, my computer doesn't have internet. So first thing I would ask is it a PC or a laptop? Which is very important, because if it's a laptop, that's a different set of circumstances than a traditional PC. So if it's a laptop, first thing you always check is going to be that wireless switch, the one that turns the wireless radio on and off. If that's different, then troubleshooting is going to be the same for both of them. So you got to know how you can go into your network settings and things like that. So learning basic networking is going to be a very key skill for any IT person to have. The next one is simply research, because it's impossible for you to know everything there is to know about IT. Nobody does, things like that. Have you ever seen, I think it's a meme that says, my medical degree is not the same as your Google search, or my engineering degree isn't the same as your Google search. And when it comes to IT, your Google search isn't the same as my Google search, which is funny. But don't let people discount how you look up information, because if it was so easy, they could look it up. Because you have to know, just like anything else, you have to know what the problem is and how to articulate it to look it up, right? It's not just as easy as I had somebody who was like, I could at work, and I was telling them that, yeah, it's a lot of stuff we don't know. Well, you look it up on Google. Google is a very useful tool in our skill set. Well, if that's all y'all do, I could do that. I was like, okay, well, let's go to the computer, because they were having a problem at the time, and they were just, I guess they were in a mood. I was like, okay, go ahead and look up the issue that you have. So she typed in computer doesn't work and hit enter. But I was like, go ahead, look through the list. Look through the list. See if computer doesn't work is gonna help you out. And lo and behold, it didn't. Not only is Google is something you need to know, get a couple other resources you have, like a couple forums that you go through and that gives you some pretty good help. Spiceworks works sometimes, or just get a couple of those resources under your belt, so whenever you don't have a answer, you can look it up. Sometimes the manufacturer of your product or the developer of your product has a wiki or has some type of forum that you can get on and ask questions. So get a couple of resources you can go to frequently to ask questions and get answers that you're not going to have, because you're not going to know everything there is to know. All right. The last thing I think all IT people need to know how to do is basic computer repair. I mean, or hardware repair. Most things that are in the professional world use a very simple tool. If you can hold a screwdriver and operate it, as far as computer repair or computer building, you're 90% of the way there. I mean, there's just not a lot of special tools you have to use when you're talking about computers, and that's by design. So it can be more universal, so anybody can really work on them that needs to work on them, and you don't have to have a lot of special tools. Now, some of these hardware things like phones and cameras, and if you're adventurous, switches, may need different special tools. Here's the thing. If you don't know computer repair, anytime there's something that's not immediately wrong, or if it's not a software problem, your only solution is to buy another computer. If you work in an environment that has, I don't know, professional desktops or professional workstations, usually with those, they have computers that you don't need tools at all to take out except for maybe like a motherboard or something like that. But as far as popping a hard drive out, or replacing a fan, or a CMOS battery, you know, you don't need any special tools like that. And also, learning computer repair can also help you with your troubleshooting. So you know that if, you know, I hear it clicking, you know, and you're using a workstation and it's clicking, click, click, click. Well, you know, it's only a couple things since I've been working on these computers that have things that move. Like if it's an older computer, it's a hard drive, or it could be a disk drive if your computer still has that. Learning how to do hardware repair or computer repair is a very essential notch in a belt of a beginning IT person. Bonus. Oh, we hadn't done a bonus in a while. And the bonus is something that it's not essential to know, but it can be very beneficial if you get in there and you take your time and you learn it. And that's micro soldering. What is micro soldering? Micro soldering is whenever you take a motherboard or anything that has small components and repair them. Take components off, or fix components on there, or replace them. Why is this a good skill? Give you an example. At work, we have a department that does audio visual. And one time they just bought this brand new cool light that does, you know, you can adjust the flash on it to dial in your photography to give you different looks, right? So somebody knocked it over and it fell and it didn't work anymore. This is a $300 piece of equipment. I have a soldering station at work, and they were like, hey, can you look at it, or what happened? The only thing happening is there was a little capacitor that when it dropped, half of it, the solder on one half broke. So the only thing I did was clean it up, put it on, and I saved the company $300. The initial investment and initial learning curve is steep when it comes to soldering, but if you ever master it, it opens up a world to you. I remember the days when it was a common skill to have to be able to solder. But back when I was growing up, you had the keyhole soldering, you had the little prongs that went through the hole, and you would make like cones at the end. But now a lot of the stuff doesn't have the prongs. It's a surface mount, and it connects here. And that made things smaller and smaller and smaller. So that's when you had to get like microscopes and things like that, which in the old days you just had to have maybe like a magnifying glass, which a lot of other repairs still can be done with a magnifying glass. But the components have gotten so small that you need a microscope. But you could save so much money. I've heard stories. I'm part of some Facebook groups that this guy, he worked for a hospital, and something happened with the MRI machine. So he went in there, and it was like two capacitors, two of the tiniest little things that was wrong with it. He repaired it and saved the hospital $300,000. I think that's amazing. But having that little skill can take a person who doesn't have a great skill set and make you more valuable, because soldering is a skill, let me tell you, a lot of IT people I know do not have. And that can separate you from the pack. You can look at people like the person I really learned from was Louis Rossman. He's a little rough around the edges, but as far as what he knows, he's good. Jessa Jones, she's another good one that you can follow. And she'll teach you how to do these things. And you know, the two main things is practice and make sure you have good equipment, because I used to try to solder with the cheapest tools I possibly could and struggle. But as soon as I got really good tools and I had the knowledge behind me, piece of cake. That's it. Hope you guys learned something. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give me a thumbs down. Tell me why you didn't like this video. And yeah, this was a good one. I like this one. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Have a good one.